Hey guys, it is Lexa and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about my experience living in New York City, living by myself, living basically as a woman, which is another thing that I want to really talk about because living by yourself as a woman can be very scary. And I think a lot of girls, especially like if they're moving there for school, this is how I thought of it. I was thinking of the glamorous parts of New York City and I was like, oh my God, the opportunities, the jobs, the school, just all these amazing things that I could do in New York City. And that's what I thought of. I didn't think about all these scary incidents that can happen. I didn't think about the fact that within 2 years of living there, I would be followed by a car and by people numerous times. I didn't think I would ever be like touched by anybody. I didn't think I would ever be like catcalled to the extent, and just all of these things I didn't realize. And I think that's why I want to make this video, for not to scare people, but just to kind of let you know that it's something that is so messed up, but it was almost my normal, which is so horrible to say. But there's also been so many good moments. But I am going to start with the bad moments because I want to get that out of the way so that I can end the video on a super happy note. Now, what I will also say is New York City, moving to New York City has changed me like you would not believe. It has given me an extremely thick skin. It has made me more tough. It has made me someone where I'm not going to let you mess with me. That's basically what moving to New York City has done to me. I've lived in New York City for 2 years, from 2018 to 2020. I moved back home when like the pandemic was going and all my classes started to become online only. So yeah. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to talk about the scary parts of New York City first. I just want to quickly mention this app. It is called Citizen. It basically notifies you whenever there's crime happening, such as like stabbing or a shooting, or if there's a fire or a huge car crash. It basically let us know when there was any type of crime going on. And all of my friends had this app. I had this app. We checked it religiously just to be sure that the area that we were in was safe. We got notifications, I'm not even kidding you, like at least twice an hour of some sort of crime or issue happening. It was very scary, but it honestly made me feel 10 times better because sometimes we would avoid going to a certain area because of these crime notifications that we would be getting. So I definitely need to make sure that I mention the Citizen app because that made me feel so much safer. So I'm going to start with where I lived, just to kind of give you an idea of the area of New York City that I lived. So I lived right around 34th Street, right by Herald Square, MSG, Madison Square Garden. That's kind of the area that I was in. So that's not an area of New York where there's like barely any people and people can get away with things and whatever. This is a place that always has a lot of people all the time. Also, one of the main reasons that I felt extremely safe moving to New York City was because my college, where the dorms were not at the college. The dorms were at a separate location that was basically like a few subway stops away. It's fairly close, but the school actually paid for doormen to be at the location of all of the students so that you were not able to go to the dorms unless you showed your key card or your key or your ID thing. You were not allowed to go up unless you proved that you stayed in that location. So I've always felt safe because of that reason. And I got to know the doormen very well. There was maybe 6 of them that they switched between, and I would always see the same people and I would always thank them. We would always talk. So I always felt safe. that there were doormen there making sure that no intruders were coming up into the dorms. And the other reason I felt safe was I was on the 18th floor. So this was like a huge area and I was all the way up. So I felt safe in the sense that I was all the way up there. It's not like I was on the first floor where someone could walk right in and cause a ruckus. Although I'm going to get into why sometimes living all the way on the top is not safe as well, which I'm going to talk about. So the first thing I want to mention is the homeless population of the area that I lived. Now, there's nothing wrong with homeless people. I'm not trying to say anything of that nature, but a lot of them have mental illnesses that kind of affect them. Of course, I feel like a lot of people know that. I feel for them and I feel horrible, but some of them have terrified me in many, many ways. So just to give you an example, I loved to go shopping for food right next to my dorm because it was more convenient. I didn't want to have to go on a subway ride to go to Whole Foods when there was literally CVS and Walgreens like not too far from me. So it was more convenient in that sense. However, the area around Walgreens, the area around CVS was filled with homeless people. And they would say as you were walking into CVS and Walgreens, they would say very disgusting, derogatory, nasty, disgusting remarks to you as you walk in. And I just ignored it. I did not say anything. I minded my own business. One thing you have to do if you're a girl and you're living in a city especially, do not say anything back. Don't even make eye contact. You literally just keep walking because they will recognize you. Because if they live in that area and they know you live in that area, they will recognize you. And I'll explain another reason why someone recognized me. So I basically would keep my head down so that they did not know what I looked like. And it's very sad. Like I would wear a scarf and I would put my scarf kind of up to my face so that nobody kind of knew what I looked like because of an incident that I'm going to talk about right now. So there was like a Taco Bell that I liked to go to. And this particular place, of course, there were a bunch of homeless people outside of it. Didn't bother me. I just minded my own business. There was an incident where Taco Bell got my order wrong, which is no big deal, but I just told them, I was like, hey, can you just make my correct order? Whatever. I wasn't in a rush, so it was like no big deal. And they said, yes, of course. They said, just throw the food out because we can't take it back. It's not sanitary. So whatever. And I said to myself, I said, why am I going to throw out perfectly good food? I saw that there was a homeless man just outside and his sign said how hungry he was. I didn't say anything to him. I kind of just left the food next to him and walked away. I didn't say a word. I don't even think we made eye contact, but obviously he recognized me because every time I would go and I would get Taco Bell, he would ask me for food.
Hey guys, I'm editing this video right now and I realized there are 3 really important things that I forgot. The first thing is the next time I saw him, he actually did thank me for the food. So that's how I realized and connected in my head that he actually recognized me, which did creep me out because I don't remember ever making eye contact with this person. The other thing is he would compliment me on very weird things. Like it would be like my makeup, but I wouldn't even be wearing makeup, or it would be my shoes and I wouldn't even be wearing the color shoes that he said I was wearing. Like just very weird things. And also he would ask me to eat with him like every time I would go there. So I would try really hard not to go to that location just because it was creepy. Even if he didn't mean anything by it, it was just very uncomfortable for me.
But now I have someone that's constantly asking me for food and I can barely afford to live in New York City on my own because if you didn't know, living in New York City is extremely, extremely expensive. If you order a Subway sandwich in the suburbs of New York, it's going to be maybe $8, whatever, just depending, at least what I order, the tomato basil wrap, that would be around like $8. In the city, it's $13-14. So basically almost double what you pay everywhere else. In New York City, it is extremely expensive. So I couldn't really afford to be getting other people things. So that was another scary moment, just kind of being recognized. And that's why, like I said, I would kind of wear a scarf to kind of cover my face when people would say things to me or look at me, like analyze my face. I just felt like I had to cover up. Another scary moment that had happened to me was my boyfriend was actually visiting me in New York City for my birthday. My birthday is on February 12th, which is right next to Valentine's Day. So usually we always do like a few things together that weekend, and I think my birthday fell on like a Thursday or a Friday, I don't remember. So he came for the weekend for my birthday and Valentine's Day. There was a shoe store that he really, really wanted to go to. So I said, okay, we'll wake up early and we will go to the shoe store. And so he was walking just ahead of me. I was walking just behind him. We were talking, having a good conversation. And all of a sudden, there's a man and his friend. A man is coming this way as we're walking this way. So it's just like this, right? The man takes his hand and he grabs my hand and he's holding it. He's not letting go of my hand. And I got loose and I start screaming at him and I say, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm just flabbergasted that this just happened to me. I'm like shocked. Like that was my reaction. I was just like, what? Like, what? And then the guy's friend is like, "What is wrong with you? You don't just touch people." And so the guy's friend's yelling at him. I'm yelling at him. And immediately when I look at him, I could tell that there is something wrong, like something is not right with this person. And being an advocate for like mental health and whatnot, part of me was like, I don't know how to explain. Part of me felt bad. It happened so fast.
So, editing Lexa coming in, there were two incidents that I forgot that I really wanted to be part of this video. One of them was I had my hair stroked by a homeless man before, and after that incident, I wore my hair up every time I left my dorm room. I never let my hair down unless I was taking photos or was with a friend. Otherwise, my hair was always up. Another incident was I had my waist grabbed by a man on a subway train, and that was another moment where I really had to learn to stick up for myself and didn't let anyone do anything to me again.
And so those people went on their way, and that's just a moment of like, what if, like, that could have been, like, what if he just would have grabbed and picked me up or something crazy? Like, thank God it was just my hand, but you just don't touch me anyway. You don't touch anybody. And that was a realistic moment for me in the sense of I am not going to let anyone do nothing. I am not going to be quiet. But after that, I became a different person because I just wasn't going to let that shit fly. And so, yeah, but never in my life did I ever get angry like that ever in my life. A new person came out. And unfortunately, that's not where this story ends. There are some more incidents. So remember when I mentioned before I was on the 18th floor, so I did feel safe? I heard screaming one night in my dorm room. And just so you know, in my dorms, it was only people that went to my college. So that always made me feel safe. My friends were literally like right across the way. And I heard screaming. And I was like, what is going on? Like, what is going on right now? And I kind of waited for everything to chill. I got a text from my closest college friend and she said, "Oh my God, I'm freaking out right now. And I was like, what's wrong? She's like, did you hear the screaming? And I said, yes, of course I did. And she was like, I'm walking out of the dorm right now and there is blood splatter everywhere. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you said what now? And so I'm worried about her. I'm like, girl, are you good? Like, can you just get back in your dorm room? Like, what is going on? Like, what? She's like, I don't know. I'm just going to go back into my room. And so I'm freaking out. I'm nervous for my friend. And she was like very nervous at the time. So I wanted to go down there to kind of comfort her, but I was kind of like, maybe I should wait it out. Cops ended up going there. I ended up going down after the cops left. I was like so shocked that this had happened. And I remember I called my mom immediately and I was like, Ma, look at this. And she was like, get back in your room. She was freaking. I was like, Ma, the cops left. Everything's fine. I don't know what actually happened. I just know there's freaking blood splatter. So the point is, the point is even if you're on the 18th floor and you feel like you're safe and you have a doorman and whatever, things still happen. Scary things still happen. And that's just that. I'm going to talk about being followed. Okay. So on one of my trips home from the grocery store, aka Walgreens, CVS, where I would get my groceries, I think it was around 10 o'clock at night. I was walking out. This is me walking, minding my own business, holding my 2 bags of groceries. Thank God my dorm room is pretty close, so I had already walked a little ways, and all of a sudden I see a car. It's coming like this. It's coming super close to me. I'm standing there and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? He wasn't even trying to like hide it either. He was staring at me and kind of coming this way. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what is going on? So I just kind of start walking a little bit faster because I'm like, I'm just going to start walking a little bit faster. And the doorman was there and he's seeing all of this. And he's like, as I literally walked right into the dorm, he was like, are you okay? Like, I saw that guy literally like staring at you. And after I walked in, he drove off. And I said to myself, what if I had a little more ways to walk? What if my dorm room was not right there? And so it was that moment that I was like, this is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. And there have been other times I've been followed. I'm not going to really get into too much detail of like the ways I've been followed and whatnot, because it happens more often than it doesn't. So there's just too many stories. But basically, I have been followed many, many times. And in those cases, I would walk into a store and I would stay there until I felt safe, or I would exit a different entrance so that if anyone was there, nobody was at the opposite entrance. I remember one time I walked into an Old Navy. One time I walked into a Sephora. So it just depends. Yeah, I mean, so those are the scary parts of living in New York City that I have personally dealt with. And those are my personal things that have happened to me that have been scary. I'm sure there's others that I am forgetting, but I did want to talk about the bad parts first. Now I'm going to talk about the amazing parts of living in New York City. The number one thing that I have always loved was that you were literally a subway stop away from everything. I have also made so many wonderful friends that I still talk to today from living in New York City, from my college. I loved the fact that I'm the type of person where I need a change of scenery when I'm studying. So for example, my dorm room had like a little library area in it where I would love to go study. And then if I needed a change of scenery, I would go back to my room. Or if I needed another change of scenery, I would go to the library at my school, or we would go to a different library. in New York City, because there's plenty of libraries in New York City. So that's kind of what I loved. I loved that I was never bored. There was always something to do. And although it was very, very expensive, it was still something that I am so glad to be able to say that I did. I am so happy to be able to say I moved to New York City, that I experienced it. I can't see myself like living there forever and raising kids there and whatnot, like just definitely not. However, I am so thankful that I had the opportunity to live there for 2 years. I think I definitely just wanted to make sure that people knew that scary things do happen. As glamorous as we might make New York City out to be, things do happen. We would always hear of stories of like someone getting pushed on the tracks and things like that, and my friends and I would be like, oh my god, these are literally kids our age and it's not too far from us.
Hey guys, so I'm editing this video and I spoke to one of my friends and she reminded me of an incident where we actually saw someone lying on the tracks, and I remembered how traumatizing that was for me. And I don't know, I could just see people taking out their phones and almost making it like a mockery, and it really kind of affected me, and I can't believe I forgot to add that part in here.
And we would just be so scared of things like that, like the fact that I would never go close to the tracks, and just things like that you learn as you live in New York City. You don't make eye contact, you don't stand close to the tracks, even if you feel like, because people get pushed, it's a thing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I kind of just wanted to not really give a warning or scare people, but just to kind of be careful. Just be careful when you are living in New York City, and think about these things when you're moving there. Don't just think about the glamorous parts. Be very careful. Try not to go anywhere by yourself. You know, I was living by myself. I didn't have a roommate, so there were many places I went myself, and a lot of times I wish that I had somebody with me, and that's just how it is. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe, and if you have any more questions, please leave below. I'm sure I'll talk much more about New York City because it is still one of my favorite places I've ever lived, as scary as these instances are. So, all right, well, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.